Hello, I think I should be live now, probably. Let me post a link to this in Reswitched. Kernel, yes, Kernel. Good to see you, Fried Keenan. You show up to all of these though, so it's less of a good to see you and more of a glad you're still around. So, since the last stream, I got this working within the guest. I'm forwarding a serial port from the host, like someone suggested in the previous stream. I can leave if it would bring more excitement to our relationship. No, you're fine. It's very funny, though. Very, very funny. Yeah, as always, I'll give people like 5-ish minutes to filter in before we actually start working. Hello, Tenebrio. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I hope I didn't mess it up too badly. Hello, Torsina? Torsina? One of the two, probably. So, and I'm sure that I will repeat this several times over the next few minutes. Today we are going to be doing more of what we did the last time I was here, and implementing more kernel stuff as it boots further and further. I plan to spend at least a couple hours doing this, although I don't have any concrete plans in mind. I speak Mandarin Chinese, Friedkinen, and I have lived in China briefly before. I'm not Asian, but that is, I took 7 years of Chinese as a student. But I only really speak English in a day-to-day way. Yeah. But so the last time that we were doing stuff with the kernel, we had just implemented SVC get system info to get the minimum and maximum process ID range. And now we were getting a call to SVC get process ID 64. So I have this open in my IDA database. I have the relevant source code file open, and once people have filtered in some, we will get right to it. I apologize, as always, for any drinking noises. I have more tea with me this time. I'm less sick than I was, but I am still, mildly sick. This is a reminder to everyone watching to make sure that you are being cautious with all of the coronavirus stuff going around. Okay, I will probably give it one more minute and then I will get started. Looks like we have, a decent number of people. Enough people that I'm pretty ready to start, but I'll give it another minute anyway. Are there any questions from the people filtering in right now? Hello, SvcManageNamedPort. Congrats on your spring break starting. Sitting in your room for a week, I don't want to say that's a good idea, but there's also the virus stuff, so it's not like a bad idea. Congrats, I suppose. Probably a dumb question. Where did the symbols come from? I wrote them in. These, like, SVC process symbols, I have a script that I published on Twitter / on gist.github.com that will automatically label all of the system calls, and it auto-identifies like 500 of the 1500 functions in the kernel. So definitely use that to get started if you're interested in the kernel. I think the system call names originally came from like 1.0.0 games have SDK NSOs, which is like compiled binary that the game dynamically links against. Will the new kernel allow stuff that we can't do right now? In theory, I guess, because if we have full source code for the kernel, we can do whatever we want in the kernel space. I don't actually have any meaningfully planned extensions. I plan to have the file system man-in-the-middle stuff be just a feature of the kernel instead of being a series of patches that I maintain. But there aren't any limitations that we can't work around with kernel patches right now anyway. And so the kernel is just, we're re-implementing the kernel because this is my labor of love and it's what I want to do. And, that's why I do a lot of things for Atmosphere, is because I am interested in doing them. But okay, it has been 5 or 6 minutes, so let's go ahead and get started. We know that it is crashing in process ID because we haven't implemented process ID. So let's go ahead and add a prototype for it. The result get process ID 64 out process ID handle. And then let's see what this actually does. Okay, so this is calling a handle table function. This is actually an inline handle table function, which I have support for, actually. Let me check what I called that in handle table. It's going to be get objects. Did I do it? Yeah, okay. It's just a handle table like get object. I think Nintendo was a separate wrapper for this pseudo handle stuff, but it's convenient for us since we have if const expert in C++ 17 to just do it this way. So that's what we're gonna do. Although I think that this logic will have to change. I think that what we're gonna have to do is we are going to have to add a STC is base of. Does is base of include is same? That's a good question. STD is base of. I have both of the same non-union class. Okay, so it does account for is same, so that'll do. Okay, that's more accurate. And we're going to need this because if we need to get an auto object, as we are doing here, then, we need the we need auto object to be willing to accept pseudo handles for this to work correctly. So, okay, first thing to do is going to be to get this from the handle table. Object from the handle table. K-scoped auto object. Current process. Get object k auto object of handle. And then next thing we want to do is I think it'll just immediately check if it's invalid handle. Yeah, if the object is null pointer, then it will immediately go to the invalid handle case. Unless now I also need to give this name. Obj.is null SVC result invalid handle. Then what do we do? Pretty sure this is going to be like the casting stuff, where it'll make sure that it properly derives from it. Hey, Behemoth. Yeah, okay, so this is going to be doing like class token stuff. So I have enums for this, so I can see if it is a process. I'll go here. If it is a thread, then it will go right here, which is interesting. And otherwise, it'll check if it's a debug and then do this debug stuff. And this is all like inline management of the references. We don't need to care about this in anything except the debug case, because kdebug get process returns an auto object or a scoped auto object, and it will do like a reset. So this will close a reference. You can see the subtraction here for the object that we've created before. But the rest of these, like if it's a thread, it just uses the object totally fine. So let's do this. Let's say that k process is null pointer process from the object. And this let me double check what I called the like is derived from function in kauto object. Is derived from const kauto object, const type object. Okay, and I believe that we have get static type object. Yes, we do. Okay. So, the way that we'll do this is first let's handle the process case. If obj is derived from a process get static type object. The object is a process, so we can use it directly. So if obj is derived from kthread, get static type object. Object is a thread. It wants to use its parent. Else if obj is derived from debug, get a static type object. Use debug. Yeah, consistency. This process is attached to. And this is going to be a mesosphere not implemented because I haven't implemented kdebug yet. Why dash and not just dot? Because this is the arrow notation indicates that it is acting on the actual auto object that this is a holder for. Dot would be used to access a k-scoped auto object instance method, but this is theoretically like dereferencing the scoped holder for the type object or for the auto object in order to call a k auto object method, if that makes sense. Friedkinen. I believe that I implemented get parent. So let me check this. Although I might call it get owner process. Get owner process. Yep, I called it get owner process. Okay. And yes, if I go ahead and pull up auto object, you can see that I have these operators overridden, which is just for my convenience. But okay. Process equals I could do a dynamic cast, but I would rather do I have support for casting in here? I don't. What is like the least gross way to add support for casting this? So there are a lot of ways that I could do it, but I'm not sure what will be like least gross for me to do. Although maybe it'll just work if I have the operator overridden. I guess I will just write the syntax that I want and maybe it will just work. But this might end up giving us like errors in the compile time phase. But okay. Reinterpret cast. Kthread. Object. Get owner. Process. Here we'll just do k-process. And I haven't implemented k-debug, so I can't do that yet. But if it ever gets called with the debug object, this is a macro that like logs and then panics, and we will get notified so that we can implement it in the future. And okay, after we do that, it'll probably do another invalid handle check. Let's double check that. Okay. Parent, if v17, otherwise it's gonna, return invalid handle. Okay, that makes sense. R unless process is not equal to null pointer, VC, result invalid handle. Okay, and then it'll just be probably just get ID we saw. Yep. Okay, now let's go ahead and build this. Am I already connected to it? Yes, I am. Okay. That really should have rebuilt stuff. Is it not building libmesosphere despite there being changes? That would be annoying. That's weird. Okay. CD libraries, CD libmesosphere, make weird. Yeah, now crash-based development is a very, very good way to do things. And also, especially for the kernel, where so much of this is, you know, do some stuff, does it work, yes or no, repeat. Oh, no, the mesosphere.bin build script always builds it because it's a Python script, and I haven't set it up to be, like, proper make stuff yet. I do make clean, and I do make J64. Oh, wait, not J64, J16. Also, I forgot to actually make get process ID call this. Return get process ID out process ID process handle. Yeah, glad that I thought to, you know, actually call the function that I just wrote. That would have been remarkably embarrassingly stupid. Okay, so you make J16. And this will probably take a little bit to build, but I'm very confused about it not detecting that there was stuff to build. It will be very annoying if I need to, like, cd into the mesosphere and make clean, and then make mesosphere unimplemented. Okay, that's fine. Oh, also this needs to be a get process.get handle table.get object. You know, little things like this. Little things like this. What is this complaining about now? Reinterpret cast. Okay, yeah, figures. Okay, I guess what we do is we do const expr always in line t get pointer unsafe. Turn this. Okay, and that should work. And I'll think about how to just make the reinterpret cast work in the future. Although actually, I could probably just add an operator t star. But nah, I'll do it this way. This way, I have to call a function that says unsafe every time that I do the cast. And that will hopefully, you know, encourage some caution. Okay, it seems happier now. I wonder if the build times got messed up by something. Since this is a VM, and it might have just seen, oh, you know, the last modified times are all really far in the future. We do not need to do anything at all. That sounds really plausible to me. Although, obviously, I have no real explanation. Yeah, I have no idea why the chat connection has been so awful these last couple of streams. It's really surprising. really, really surprising. Oh well. It's not the end of the world. Okay. Hello, I'm going to assume that's Felix 20, despite the weird spelling. Okay. Let's go ahead, boot this. And this should give us the output we want. Yeah, I have the serial port forwarding from a host serial port to the VM, and it seemed to work when I tested before I started streaming. Yep, looks like it works. Okay, wow, we are going to be getting right into it. Okay, manage named port. So this is SM, which is the service manager, registering itself. Hey, Valiant Stormed. Wow, okay, I guess we're going to be implementing ports today. That's really fun. That's... okay. I can do that. Now we can have proper serial killers. It's funny. It's very funny. Okay, so a brief intro before I start working on manage named port about how ports work, or how IPC works in the switches kernel, since it is about to be very relevant as we implement a whole bunch of it. Basically, the switch uses microservices, where these system module drivers each provide some number of small services. And if I go to switch brew services API, and I'm doing this, just that anyone who watches this on YouTube can understand how this works. For example, you might have the account system module, and it will register these services. Account U0, account U1, account... I think it's administrator, I think it's super user. And this all works super great, except there's one problem with it, which is that services or system modules need to have somewhere to register their services in the first place. And so there's kind of this chicken and egg problem, where services need a place to register, and the service manager solves that. The service manager calls system call SvcManageNamedPort, and it provides a port with a specific name, which is SM:. And then anyone can connect to named port, and that will get them a direct connection to the service manager regardless of their permissions. So everything can talk to the service manager, and the service manager is responsible for checking what capabilities a process has, if it's allowed to register things it wants to register, if it's allowed to get access to things it wants to get access to. That's all handled in userland. And underpinning this are the concepts of ports and sessions. Yeah, no, that joke was not as good as other ones. It was a good try, though. In the kernel, manage named port creates a K-port. And if I look at my definition for a K-port, which I should have, a K-port is a server port, a client port. It might have a name, some state, and whether or not it's a light port. And light is a weird topic that we won't talk about a lot right now, but basically, in addition to the normal IPC, the kernel actually supports light IPC, which is much faster and much leaner, but doesn't have as many features as full IPC. Nothing uses light IPC in practice, but we will be implementing it for the kernel. And when it calls manage named port in particular, it will create a K object name, which is like this global list of named objects that are allowed to exist. And that's how the lookup function will work, and we will have to implement that tonight, I guess, which is exciting. Wow, I didn't think we'd be implementing this soon. And a port manages sessions. A session is what allows a process to talk to another process. Only SM: can be accessed via name port. SvcManageNamedPort creates one of these K object name objects, and the K object name object is used to look up the port for the service manager. Yeah, light IPC is super wacky, but it's very fast. It's a super fast pipe between two processes. And I think it's there because the kernel team probably doesn't talk very much to the user team, or they don't talk enough. The kernel has a bunch of features that the user team doesn't really use. Like they have exchange buffers. Where in addition to just sending a page or receiving a page over IPC, a process can exchange a page, which is like both read and write at the same time. And that is a speed up, but nothing uses it. And also, SVC reply and receive, as you might gather from the name, allows you to simultaneously reply and receive with a single system call to speed up stuff. Libc does not use any light IPC because there are no light IPC servers in the system. But I totally lost track of what I was saying about sessions. A reply and receive. Reply and receive lets you do both actions in a single system call, but the userland wrappers are HIPC : reply and HIPC : receive, and so Nintendo always uses the slower two system call path. And I think that just must be some miscommunication between the team that is implementing the userland software and the team that is implementing the kernel software about what the requirements are, because the kernel kind of goes above and beyond what user space needs in a lot of ways. But okay, we're gonna go to svcport.cpp, and wow, I really was not expecting us to get to this so quickly. We're probably gonna need to create a kport object too, unless I've already created it. Oh no, it's a placeholder. Great, okay. That is fine. We'll work with that. Okay. Let me pull up ManageNamedPort, just so I'm not totally going to flub this. ManageNamedPort. Yeah, okay, it's going to copy a string from the user. That makes sense. It's going to do max sessions and name on stack. Okay, that's fine. That all seems fine. Then it'll, verify that the sessions are valid. It'll create a new port object. And then it will reserve space in the handle table for the server. It'll initialize the port. It'll, register the object name. There's a lot that this will do, but it's fine because I have all of it labeled. So it should all totally be fine for us to do. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to have private members, as we have in every class. We're going to have a server port, we have a client port, and actually I'm going to get rid of the port here because this is going to be reused a lot because there are like 3 or 4 classes that have this like server client design. And I think that's a pointer T for the name. Double check this. Port. Yeah, okay. And then there's like the state enum. Okay, so it's invalid, normal, server closed, client closed. So let's make that private enum state invalid. Should make that an enum class. Valid, active, normal. Client closed, server closed. 0. 1, 2, equals 3. We got a state, and what's the last member? Last member is light. That makes sense. Okay. And then let's add a 1.6 per kport. Server, client, name, state valid, is light, and it probably has a meaningful destructor. I should check that. Let's see. It'll be in a kport, kport. Yeah, this tracks if I go to the vtable, these will be the destructors. Kport. And okay, it will like unlink the thread list. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Port. What about this? Yeah. That's an unregister. Yeah, verify that it's from the slab heap. Okay, this is all just standard, super standard stuff. I actually think that there's nothing like a special, nothing special that needs to go in here. Okay, and then obviously since we don't have these right now, we're gonna need kern k client port.hpp and kern k server port.hpp. Also, those files don't exist yet, so I will need to create them. Kern k client port and kern k server port. Okay. Let's get these open, and obviously I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to delete this. Okay, so let's go ahead and see, save this, and this is going to have to change too, but let's see what my structure is for K client port. Okay, that tracks. Is that a, so it's an atomic human 32T, that's an atomic human 32T. That's just, I think that's just an int actually. I think these are all signed. And that's a port to the parent. So let's go ahead and, you know, do this. Give me class K client port final extends K synchronization objects. Are there any Easter eggs in the code of Atmosphere? Not really, no. I was never much into Easter eggs. That's not really my thing. I'm sorry. Need to sessions S32 peak sessions S32 max sessions and kport parent. And then again we'll have a context for client port, which will, you know, just do all of the members. And, you know, the server port is probably gonna look pretty similar. So let's give the server port its definition right now. Okay, we're gonna need probably to like forward declare K server session and light server session. You need to add an Easter egg about Finalizing right this second. You know, I appreciate that. I will probably hold off on adding the Easter egg. Okay. Also, this doesn't use the slab heap helper, so it doesn't need that. Do this. This can be server port, and this, in this case, these are actually intrusive lists. So this is not going to look the way that it normally would, but okay. This could be K server port, K synchronization object. It seems to be K client port, K synchronization object, but okay. So let's do private. Give a little scope for the type defs. Yeah, no, there's no real Easter egg. I'm not really into that. Using session list. Actually, forward declarations. K server session. Class K light server session. Session list is util intrusive list base traits. K server session. Type. And let me actually double check that that is correct, because I absolutely believe that I would get that wrong by just doing it this way. Although I've created so many intrusive lists, you would think that I would remember what this is called by now. Intrusive list, intrusive list base traits. Yep, it is in fact intrusive list base traits, and this is intrusive list base node. Okay, so that's what I thought it was. Using session list, using light session list. Let's align these. It's a K light server session. That's true. The Easter egg is the real friends that we made along the way. Okay, now that we've got this, we want a session list for normal sessions, light session list for the light sessions, and we want the parent. Okay, so it's going to be const expr okay, server port, which I also think it doesn't do anything here. This is going to be session list, light session list, and parent in here. Okay. And now obviously these are going to have to satisfy some stuff that all synchronization objects do. So let's go ahead and see what did I want to do. Well, the first thing we should do is add a way to get the parent from them. So expr const kport get parent, return this parent. Let's also add that to k client port. So we want this to be mostly reusable. Please explain about intrusive list. Do you have any good cryptography books you recommend? I don't really have any cryptography books that I recommend. Sorry. So intrusive list, normally if you think about like a linked list, you think that it points to the start of a list. And that works normally, but the problem with that is that that kind of linked list only lets you have it exist in one kind of list at a time. An intrusive list is a member of the object, and we say that it's intrusive because it is used to signify an entry in some list, and stuff points to that member instead of the parent, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. You never know. We actually check what does k-synchronization object require us to implement. So I'm pretty sure this will override like the obvious stuff, but also other stuff. Is signaled, there's finalize probably. Okay. What do I have in terms of k client port labeled? Client port initialize. Let me go to the k client port v table. Man, this is really not gonna be there. I guess it's in kport, kport. Yeah. Okay, client port virtual table. And let me also look at the auto object v table just to be sure, or synchronization object v table just to be sure. Okay, synchronization object v table. It's destructors. There's finalize. Is signaled, signal, clear, force clear. Yeah, these all should be straightforward. It's definitely gonna have override for is signaled. But I think it's just is signaled and finalized that it has overridden. What's the offset for finalized so I can verify that? Finalize is at plus 0x18. Okay. On board, you know, if I was not stupid, I would actually label these instead of doing this every time. K client port. Awesome. It's going to call, what is unknown 40? Oh, is that just because I have the vtable for k client port, like using the automatic virtual table? That would make sense. Interesting. Pretty sure this is like finalize impl, but that would surprise me if it wasn't. Okay, what does unknown 0x40 do? 0x40 would be right here. That's a null sub. Okay, that's probably some kind of destructor, but it's fine. That's fine. We'll implement it. Okay, I'm going to assume that these override finalize. Let me actually check what the k-synchronization object finalize method does. Finalize this on finalize synchronization object. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, that totally makes sense. Never mind. They are not overriding finalize. They are overriding on finalize synchronization object if they are overriding anything. Let's see. What from k auto object might they be overriding? K auto object. You have destroy, finalize. Yeah, okay, that tracks. What did I call these? Oh, detour is what I call destroyed. That's a bad name. Okay, if I go to 0x10, yeah, there we go. Or K client port rather. Okay, so this is calling some function on the K port. It doesn't do a normal. Yeah. Client port. And this will be a destroy. And this is a void. Okay. This seems mostly totally straightforward. Yeah, this is just, you know, it being an auto object. One is... Okay, that's the reference count. Yeah. Okay, decrements a reference to the parent, which makes sense. And this is probably like kport. It's probably like on client destroyed or on client closed. Yeah, no, this is all making sense now. Okay. I hate how changing the name will make me need to redo this as a K-core local region. But this is straightforward. We'll implement it pretty soon. This is just, you know, lock it, check if it's normal. If so, make it client closed. That's it. Pretty simple. And I will assume that server port will have the same thing. And we will end up running into that later if that is not true. Okay. So we're going to have overridden virtual functions. Here we're going to have a virtual void destroy override virtual is signaled override, I think. Pop it and lock it. Yeah, pretty much. Okay. What else do I have on? Yeah, that's probably enough for now. To do more of K client port. So we'll add the same thing to K server port. Since they are, in general, pretty symmetric objects. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to add stuff to kport for working with these objects, since that's pretty necessary. Do I have kport initialize? Yes. Okay. Max sessions is light and name. Okay. Void initialize. Do max sessions. We're going to do pool is light. We're going to do name. Okay. Then we can do void on client closed. Void on server closed. That'll be good. And then we also want to be able to access the client and server from the port. So let's do k client port get client port. Turn this client const k client port get client port const. Server port, get server port. Okay. We're going to want to know if this is a light port or not. Pool is light. Const this is light. Yeah, I think I'll put the port accessors at the end. Also, I think I'll do it like this. That's a little more aesthetic. To do more of kport. It's also a getter for the name. UN pointer t get name. Turn this name for consistency. Let's put that before that. And And then we'll need stuff for sessions eventually, but we're not going to need that right here. So it should be fine, I think, probably. You know, this is all, we're going to implement what we're going to implement. Okay. I am pretty comfortable with that. And the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to, you know, see what we need as we implement ManageNamedPort. And ManageNamedPort is, you know, going to be pretty straightforward, I think. In that it's, how do I say this? It just creates an object name, it creates a port, and then it inserts it into the handle table for both the client and the session. And that is just not going to be super complicated for us to do. I mean, the complicated part will be implementing object name, but I'm like not really expecting that to be a problem. Okay. Do I have a source folder open? I do. Let's get SvcPort back up. And we're going to want result manage named port. We're going to want svc handle server handle user pointer name to max sessions. Okay, this is actually like a copy string from user. This is all handled for us if we go to SVC and we go to user pointer. I have a bunch of C++20 concept stuff here that I'm excited to put into the code base, but we're not on C++20 yet, so we are going to end up using using this. But okay, let's. I'm gonna have to define object name, aren't I? But we can manage that fine. I guess I have to do that first. Guess I lied if I said that we are going to be implementing this before anything else. We need to do object name. I go to object name. Yeah, it's a pretty simple intrusive list. So that should be pretty straightforward for us to do. Like just not intrusive list, a name, and the object that it manages. Okay. That should be super straightforward. In fact, I already have it inheriting from the base list because I thought ahead. That's what you call planning. Okay. Private using list until intrusive list base traits. Okay, object name, list type. Why is so much of code in Atmosphere libs that is program specific? Because Atmosphere libs, Behemoth, is the AMS namespace, basically. In Nintendo's user space stuff, they don't really have separation of client and server code. And an SDK NSO is basically the NN namespace. And in the same way, Atmosphere libs is the AMS namespace, pretty much. And the individual processes just link against it to do specific things. It also eases a lot of the effort of building alternate implementations of processes, if needed. I don't think we do that right now, but it makes it easier if we want to do that. If that makes sense. Private, okay. Public, const expert. Sizeity, I guess. Name length max 12. Private name length max, and k auto object. And this should be, relatively straightforward. Let's see, what functions do I have on object name? There's like new from name, there's find, there's delete. It should all be pretty simple. Okay. So expert k object name object, and I think it's just slab allocated. It's not an auto object, so it doesn't need a virtual destructor because it's not an auto object. I'm going to have to like force myself to remember that. There isn't actually going to be much that's public because we're going to want an initialize, but I think only like new from name can actually call initialize, so it's mostly going to be static stuff. It's going to be like new from name is static, find is static, delete is static. It's all going to be basically static. Static result name, okay, auto object, and const char name. And new from name. Find is going to be finding a k auto object from a const char star. Static k auto object find name. And delete is going to be taking in a k auto object. I don't know why I have this as void. All right, it made the assembly way worse when this was not void. And taking in a name. Static result delete k auto object star name. Okay. And that should be pretty good. We're going to need some stuff that's internal, obviously, so we can go ahead and add a private result initialize. And new from name, it's probably inlined in here, so we will figure out what it needs for initialize later, I guess. I mean, it would surprise me if it was anything other than the same arguments as new from name, but we'll decide on that when we go through this and are implementing it. But, okay. I'll hold off on that, actually. To do, right, functionality, okay, object name. Hey, I'm Bit95. We are implementing SvcManageNamedPort. Will AMS end up being more optimized than stock modules? It's hard to say. My IPC is definitely a lot leaner than Nintendo's because I do a lot of stuff at compile time that they do at runtime. So my IPC assembly is more efficient than theirs. And Atmosphere is consistently less memory heavy for specific modules than every equivalent Nintendo module. But it depends on what you mean by optimized. I expect that we will probably end up being similar levels of optimization at the end of the day. Okay. Let's go back to manage named port. Okay. What result is this? This is result invalid pointer, although I think that's automatically handled by this copy string from user. I think that's just what that method does. Am I right about that? Copy string from user, copy string from user. Yeah, result invalid pointer. So that is totally fine. We create this name on the stack, it clears it to 0, and then it copies it in. Copy the provided name, user memory, kernel memory. Our name, okay. What do I want to call this? Because this is, I call this name on stack here. That's kind of gross. Let's change this to username. Name, okay, object name, name length, max. Try username dot copy string to name size of name. Pretty sure that's right. Let me check that I got that right. Copy string to destination and size. Yep. Okay. So that'll be good. And then the next thing that it checks is the maximum number of sessions less than 0, and is the name of the stack not null terminated. Hey, help, Memister. We are implementing the Nintendo Switch's kernel. I am the primary developer for the custom firmware for the Nintendo Switch Atmosphere, and I am streaming my development for the Switch's kernel, which I am re-implementing. Plus sessions 0, SVC result out of range, unless name, object name, size of name -1, equals 0. See, is that also a result out of range? Yeah, it is. It's a weird result for that, but it's out of range. Has the fat driver been replaced yet? No, that can't be done without doing the whole file system sys module, which is enormous and will be a huge amount of work for us. I plan on doing it, but it is a lot of work. Okay, and then there are two code paths here. If max sessions is greater than 0, it'll create a port, etc. And if max sessions is 0, then it will delete it, which is, you know, it's a management system call, so it makes sense. Okay. 16, yeah, it verifies that it's a client port. Okay, that's interesting. This is C++ that I'm writing. And okay, if it is going to be deleting stuff, let's actually add that accessor right now. This is actually IDA, not Ghidra. Okay, so let's do a delete, which will make public template, type name T, static result, delete, and this is also going to be taking in the name, I think. What's actually used here? We have name on stack, but then the actual object isn't really used, so we don't need that. Okay. I think what this is going to do is this is going to get the object. It's going to dynamic cast it. And then it is going to delete it. Okay. That's simple enough. Will you be streaming FS reimplementation? I have no idea. That's too far in the future for me to make any claims about it. Okay. Find the object. Okay, auto object is find name. And then what's returned if it's not found? R unless just not equal little pointer. SvC result not found. Okay. And then is this managed? It is managed. Okay. Let me think about this. I think what we're actually gonna do, and bold take, is we're going to make this scoped object k-auto object find. And that will make I'll make this separate from the rest too. That'll mean that we don't have to worry about it, you know, managing references. Let me actually check. Does find open a reference? I bet find opens a reference. Yeah, find will open a reference to whatever it's doing. How are you testing Atmosphere? I am testing it on hardware. I have this hooked up to like a debug UART stuff so that I can get serial output from it running on hardware. I do have like a unicorn solution that I use that Shiny Quagsire made for kernel stuff, but at this point I'm testing entirely on hardware because it's just a better choice than testing an emulator. Okay, so this is going to be k-scoped auto object. Oh, so this is k-scoped auto object. Okay. Cast object to desired type. So this will be T. don't like naming things T. It always puts me off a little bit. Drive derived is object dynamic cast derived. S derived does not equal the null pointer. SVC result not found. And this is going to become an object dot is not null. Okay. And then there's going to be a delete here. Yeah, so at this point it'll just return the delete. Return delete object name. Okay. And then there's also probably, let's wait until we see if something uses it. There will probably also be like a template helper that we'll need to write for find, but I'm not sure about that. Okay. If sessions is greater than 0, else delete the object. Okay, object name delete. Okay, client port name. And that should do what we're seeing here, where it finds it and then it, decrements it, and then it writes 0 to the output server handle. I'm pretty sure that should match the semantics we need. Although if it's writing out to the server handle here too, we probably need like an on-scope exit for writing the server handle. That shouldn't be too bad. Okay. We've already verified that it's greater or equal to 0, else if sessions is equal to 0. Okay. I'm gonna delete the client ports and I guess that we do a we can just return this actually. That's gross. Try. Here's TechPixel. Ensure closing. There's no need. No server handle. Out. Server handle. SVC invalid handle. Okay, this should totally be correct, I think. But this is all. I don't even know if this compiles yet, so we'll get to it. Okay. Looks like the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to create the port. Okay. This should just be as simple as kport : create, by the way. Create port. Port is kport create, and if it fails, then it returns SVC result out of resource. Unless, yeah, no, this is all totally my hobby. Help me, Mister. This is my hobby project. This port is not equal to my pointer. SVC result out of resource. Okay. And then it looks like it's doing a reserve on the handle table. And if it's doing that, we need to get the handle table immediately. It looks like it's getting the handle table up above this. Handle table. Auto handle table. Just get current process. Get handle table. Yeah, I am very dedicated to this Help Me Mister. It is a huge labor of love on my part. Let me check. Go to handle table. think it's reserve. Yeah, it's reserve. Okay. Reserve handle for the server port. Try handle table reserve out server handle. Okay. And then I'm pretty sure this is going to do like an inline initialize. Oh no, it's not inlined. Even better. Okay. So this creates a non-light port. I think, what is the signature for initialize? Is this returning a result or not? It's a void. Okay. So we don't need to try it. It's just port initialize max sessions false 0, I think. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. And then, assuming that works, this is a register, actually. Okay, so it looks like when we do this, what we're going to end up having to do is we're going to have to do a auto server handle guard scope guard handle table dot probably unreserved, but let's double check that. Unreserved. Okay. Reserve out server handle. Okay, and now what this does, this guard, this schedules this action to take place at the end of the scope. And then no matter what we do, if we have not canceled this guard, then we can be sure that any early return will appropriately clean up the resource. And this is one of those super nice C++ things that I love, our scope guards, is the ability to schedule arbitrary code to execute at the end of a scope. Okay, so this is just doing register, and if it fails, then it unreserves. So at this point, we can do a register port register port. And this object allocator insert is always register. You can see that it's k auto objects with slab heaping container. If I go to current case slab helpers or whatever, this will have like static result register, which will register it to the global container. Yeah, no, scheduling stuff to take place at the exit of a scope and then being able to cancel it it makes the code flow really, really nicely. Does this unreserve ever get called anywhere else? No, it is once, and so we know that right here, if we succeeded, then we no longer need to worry about the handle. Server handle guard dot cancel. And then we want to, it looks like, register right here the server handle in the table. I've been programming since, so Atmosphere is my first C++ project, yes. Let me give you a brief timeline. I got into hacking Pokemon in February of 2014. AMS is the abbreviation for Atmosphere, which is the project I'm writing this for. And I slowly learned C and Python over the next couple of years, and C#. C# was my first language, and it is still a favorite of mine. I learned how to program by writing PKHex, which is a Pokemon save editor with Cafetix. And we still maintain it together, although it's really Kurt's project, and I just do research for new games these days. And then around summer of 2016, I learned assembly from hacking the Wii U, because I and a couple other people attacked the Wii U together and compromised it, and that is how I learned assembly, was via hacking the Wii U. Yeah, PowerPC assembly. Although it was really ARM, because the PowerPC was already compromised via public kernel exploit, and we were attacking the Starbuck processor, the security processor. And then I got really into ARM assembly, working with the 3DS after that, and in like end of 2016 through like June of 2017, I was super into the 3DS, and then we released the 3DS boot ROM exploit, boot 9 strap, and I switched to ARM64 assembly around the time that I started working on the Switch when it released in 2017. And wow, I mean, I guess I learned C between like 2015 and 2017. But my first C++ program ever was for Atmosphere, and it was in early 2018. So I've been writing C++ for 2 years now, because Atmosphere just turned 2 years old. Almost 2 years, because I didn't start Stratosphere until like a couple months after I started Atmosphere, because I did the secure monitor first. So I've been programming for like 5.5 years, and programming C++ for almost 2 years. Register the... You know what? I'm going to move this and to after this, because it's going to look better, and this operation can't fail. Register the handle in the table. K handle table. Handle table dot register. And let me check what the arguments on that are. Yep, it takes in a void. And we just need to pass in the handle and the object, which is super easy. Okay. Out server handle and port, get server port, but this returns a reference, and so we're gonna need to do std address of. Okay. Cool, that'll work. And then we want to create the object name. And actually, this is going to create a new guard. Auto. Serve guard. That's really what this is doing. Is this is guarding the reservation. Now we want to guard the registration. Register guard. Scope guard. Handle table. Dot remove. Out server handle. I'm pretty sure that's right. I mean, I'll check that, but bool remove. Yeah. Okay. And it's not the output from that is not checked. It looks like, since the remove is just close the handle basically. So that should be fine. I want to create a new object name, and this will be try. Okay, object name, new from name. And it looks like this is taking in as output. It's going to create a new to the client port. So this will be std address of port get client port. And the other argument to this is the name. Cool. And then obviously register guard.cancel. And actually we have more cleanup to do in general. Form resource cleanup. And this is decrementing the reference count for the server and decrementing the reference count for the client. And I'm going to assume this is because references will be open to it, and so we need to make sure that we're tracking the right number of references. This will be port get server port dot close port get client port dot close. Okay. This should, I think, be a correct implementation of the system call, and we're going to try to build it because right now it shouldn't fail building, it should fail linking because we haven't implemented functions. Great, okay, this is what I was trying to fix, was exactly this kind of thing. I probably need to forward declare kport, don't I, in these? Okay. Let's go ahead and take client ports, class kport. Also declare class kport. That should make that better. Huh. Is signaled not a virtual method? I guess it must not be. That's weird. Let me check that in case synchronization object. In Okay, synchronization object. Dumb question. How do you handle atomics from C++? I use std atomic. So this is actually a really good question, StuckPixel. So prior to as of 6.0.0, as of 6.0.0, Nintendo had this custom atomic wrapper that used the same assembly everywhere it was used. And then they started doing optimized stuff in a newer kernel. I haven't diffed 7 and 8, but I have a database for 9. It's this way in 9. They have these optimized things where they use correct correct optimized stuff for different operations. And the only way I tried to implement the optimized stuff using like a custom class, I can replicate their original shit very easily. Well, very easily. It's like 200 lines of code. But the only way to express the semantics of the new stuff is using std atomic, and so I am really confident that they switched from custom atomics to std atomic in a recent kernel, which is maybe interesting to people who care about the kernel. Virtual bool is signaled O. Const. Okay, sure. That's dumb. So it needs to be a const override. But this is what the override keyword is for. It tells you when you mess something up, and then you get a compile time error. Expected unqualified ID before private in kport. That's surprising. I go back to the kport header. What is it expecting? Oh, yep. There we go. Forgot a semicolon. Does not have any field name server. Yeah, it does. Oh, but this would have like failed to parse because of that. So we're gonna need to do this. Static result delete. Yeah, this is gonna need to be like another git pointer unsafe kind of thing, where we do delete object dot git pointer unsafe. Aren't std atomic C++ 14 plus? Yeah, I think so. But I mean, Nintendo does stuff with templating that is pretty recent, so I'm pretty sure they have C++ 14. Derived post destroy. Oh, okay, sure. That's just a static method of slab heap stuff. Let's be static void post destroy. And I think it takes in a UN pointer. I don't think this does anything. Like, I'm actually really, really confident that the post finalized or post destroy for port, whatever you want to call it, does nothing. Okay. Does the header compile? If the header compiles, I'll switch to make J16. It does. Great. Also, while this is going, it won't link. There will be linker errors, so I don't actually need to worry about it copying. Okay. Great. We fucked up. Let's see why we fucked up. Add. Did I call add? This is in the handle table thing. What am I doing wrong here? Templated add. Add. Out handle object object.get type object dot get class token. Candidate expects 2 arguments, 3 provided. Did I call this something different? I probably just called this something different because I mean I definitely have add. Is it register? No. We support register. Add handle object type. Handle object type. Oh, it's probably not matching because this class token is not actually a U16. That's odd though. I'm pretty sure that it's a U16. Let me check. It's current K class token. Token base type is U16. Yep. And this is like my auto generation for all of the class token stuff. So let's go back to current K auto object, which is what contains get class token. type object get type object returns this. Okay, so it's going to be a type object here. Type object class token type get class token. Okay, that should be returning a class token type. And class token type is token base type, which is U16. So that's intriguing. I'm not sure why that's not finding the add function that's right here. Weird. Kern class token type. I'm pretty sure class token type is token base type. Unless I have like class token type being something weird about like this. But no, class token type should be static assert std is same class token type U16 value. I don't understand why that would be failing to match, unless I'm like missing something really obscure about C++. Oh, could it be that this needs to be a kauto object and it's not automatically upcasting it? I would totally believe that I'm adding the wrong thing to the handle table. Let me see this. Am I adding... Nope, I'm adding the server port, so that should be fine. Template type name T. Okay, what is it templating on? Kern handle table, type name T. No, it's definitely taking a pointer here. And these static asserts are passing, so it's a candidate. Handle, object. Oh, just need to be registered? Yeah. That would do it. Okay, I see. That's the problem. Also, this is unnecessary. Okay, so the problem there was that this was calling add instead of register. That's another copy-paste error. That is, I only make one kind of error, and it's copy-paste errors. Okay, is there anything else here that's it's sad about? It looks like it's just that. And I'm going to wait for the linker errors to tell me what it is that I need to implement in the rest of these functions. Great, more problems. SVC invalid handle. Sessions is not declared. Okay, those are actually me making dumb copy-paste mistakes. Actual variable is max sessions and not sessions. Audit max sessions 0. Invalid handle is not a member of AMS current SVC. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, no, make J16 is really nice. It's even nicer on the host when I have make J64. Okay, it is saying it is defined but not used. Did I do the same thing I always do where I write this and then I don't actually call it? Yep, I did. Great. It's really funny how I do that like every time. Return ManageNamedPort out server handle name max sessions. And same thing for the 32-bit. And actually, let's for our sake, sphere log creating named port %s. Name sessions. Then we will again down here do deleting named port %s. Cool. And there are going to be linker errors. Like this is just going to be a linker error thing. Also, let me be smart to connect my switch to the desktop at this point. Yeah, no, the compilation speed since I upgraded my PC has just been awesome. Yep, there we go. There's the linker errors. And I just ran the RCM exploit on my Switch, so we should be connected and able to copy to it once we're done with the linker errors. And continue without scanning. Great, okay. So, lots of linker errors, but that's expected because we didn't implement like half of the stuff that we declared. In undefined reference to vtable for kserverport. Oh yeah, I need to implement the stuff that's in the virtual tables. That's fine. And then I need to implement kObjectNameFind, kport initialize. Okay. So let's go drag kObjectName and kClientPort and kServerPort over to the front. And kport, I guess. But I think it's already pretty close here. And that's the system call for the port, which we're done with at this point. Kport. No. I don't like Rust. It's an awesome idea of a language. I think that it's super cool how it, builds in the borrow checker into the language. But I hate Rust syntax. Rust syntax it just makes me so sad. So let's not do that. Looks like I don't have a CPP file for port, so we will create one. So what's something small? Readable event. Let's copy that. Kern kport. Okay. Here we're going to need initialize on client closed on server closed. The great thing about this is that if I don't want to, I don't have to implement any of this. Maybe this can just be mesosphere unimplemented. And this is a macro that will, if we run into it in practice, I can do. Rust syntax goes out of its way to throw out all of the C conventions. In particular, I really don't like apostrophe as the lifetime operator, so to speak. I don't know what the official Rust term for that is, but it doesn't read right to my brain that spends so much time reading and writing C and C++. I don't think the syntax is objectively bad. It's just, as someone who likes the C and C++ syntax, it is so foreign that it really puts me off. I'm not saying Rust is a bad language. I'm saying Rust is a really good language. It just looks super alien, and I don't like trying to write it because it is so foreign to me. Okay, so what does kport initialize do? That makes sense. It's gonna, create the server object, create the client object. It's going to call the initialize functions on both the server and the client. That is super straightforward. It also looks like it increments the reference count, so it doesn't open. And that is also interesting, but also really easy to work with. Okay, so the first thing that this is going to do is this is going to open a reference count. Is open. Looks like it sets is light. No, it's just caching it later. That's fine. Okay. The last thing that it's going to do is it's going to set member variables. This is light. Is light. This name. This state is state normal. Okay. Then we want to create the server, create the client, initialize the server, initialize the client. Okay, what are the arguments on this? This and this in max sessions. Got it. And then we need to add, do we have initialize? We don't. Okay, so let's add that. Server port just takes a port. Okay, let's create the CPP files for server port and client port so that we can, start working on those too. Client port. And, right, these are all K-port members. I do copy paste these manually. It's I do so much stuff manually that I think a lot of people do in an automated way. This is going to be a K-port, and those don't exist yet. This is K-port parents S32 sessions. This is to do, although we'll implement it in a second. This is just that I can copy paste this to K server port. Server port. This will be K server port initialized, and it only needs the parent. Great. What does server port initialize do? Yep. Okay, that's super simple. Sure, there'll be something similar in client port too. Yep. Funny how that goes. This max sessions, this max sessions. And it's gonna be num sessions and peak sessions probably. Num sessions and peak sessions. Yep. This num sessions 0. This peak sessions is 0. Okay, so that should be that. But then server port and client port are both going to want their virtual functions, which we haven't done yet. See, this should be virtual void destroy override and virtual bool is signaled override. Okay, so let's copy those in for client port. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing here. It's exactly the same thing, so. So, a lot of people, I think, program very much with the keyboard and mouse only. With the keyboard only. I use my mouse a lot, which I am not sure is super typical for people who are doing this. Okay, let me check where the offset of is signaled is in the virtual table. Synchronization object, view table. Is signaled is at 48 in the V table. Okay, let's go back. I think we were there recently. Yep, okay, so 48 will be right here, and this will be K client port is signaled. And server port around here. No references to server port. All right, that's because it'll be referenced by this GOT entry that's just before it. Let's also add server port right here so that we can do this too. K server port is signaled. And if I go back a couple times, where is the offset of destroy? It's at +10, right? Okay. I'll do client first. Generally, I think I prefer to do the client object first. Let's go back here. Client port is signaled. Okay, it is num sessions is less than max sessions. Super easy. Mesosphere, assert. This, I try to do this for all member functions. Turn this num sessions is less than this max sessions. Super simple. Okay. And a note to myself to do check assertions later. That's really check preconditions later. Even in Vim, you use set mouse equals S, you can scroll with your mouse. Yeah, okay. I'm glad to see that other people also use the mouse a lot. I would not be able to program with only my keyboard. Okay, and then if I go back to the virtual table and I go to destroy, this will be on client closed, and then it looks like it closes a reference to the parent, which makes sense. Okay. So this is going to do this parent on client closed, note with our parents, closed, and close our reference parent object. Do you see the guy who modified Dragon naturally speaking to control input? I did not. That sounds really, really amusing though. Like, I don't want to imagine trying to speak English as a mechanism for programming. That sounds awful. For as much as I speak out loud when programming, and I speak out loud a lot, that's... God, no. Destroy. Okay, server ports. Okay, this is probably case server port on like server port closed. Let's check this. If it just modifies the state, then it will be kport. Yeah. Kport on server closed. And then the real question is going to be, LOL, what is the other thing? And this is taking in this. Okay. So this is going to be taking in okay, server ports. This. And what does this do? Okay, it locks scheduler. I tried to resize my VM window instead of the IDA window, which is, you know, big brain. Can't get that to work. Okay, so this is what's this? We're doing live reverse engineering, guys. Okay, this is session end. There's V2 here. Session list start. Okay, this is like a cur session. Okay, so this is like an if there is anything in the list, then it goes here. Otherwise, it continues. This is closing references. What is this doing? Okay. That tracks too. That looks like a less inline version of this. Got it. Okay. Sure. So it looks to me like what this is doing, keeping in mind that this is an abbreviation and not actual code. This is like, there's some loop here. While true. Use the session list empty is, what's on label 10? Or this is if it's not empty. If it is empty, then it goes here. It unlocks the mutex, and so we are done immediately. Okay. And then this, I think this is going to be the actual. We go to v13. Yeah, this is going to be like the actual session variable. This is really cur session. This is more like, this actually is session list and it explains exactly what code should do while reading what code actually does. Yeah, you know, we're figuring this out. Yeah, I mean, you know. I have a lot of experience reading pseudocode output. Like a lot of experience reading pseudocode output. Okay, and yeah, if it's null, then it's done. So that makes sense. And if it's not null, then it performs a close operation on the current session. This is a K session. It's actually the K server session, I guess. And yeah, so this is going to close it. So this is like, is the session list empty? This is actually doing, because it's getting a lock. So it's like, session is null pointer. Lock the scheduler mutex. The first thing in list. Unlock the scheduler mutex. If it's not null, close it. If it is, list is empty. We're done. Okay. So this is what all of this code is doing, basically. Like, that is all of this code is just doing what I just said. And then I bet this is the same thing for light sessions. Like, I bet that this is yeah, okay, that's exactly going to be the same because for light sessions. That makes sense. Okay, and I guess that this is because, you know, it shouldn't have to do both of these. If it's a light server, it should only have light sessions, and if it's not a light server, it should only have non-light sessions. Now, Nintendo's code is C++, and we will translate this to C++. I know what this does now. This is fine. Let's call this, it's going to be a private method. This private void cleanup sessions. I'll put that like right here. Void kserver port cleanup sessions. Yes, exactly. Thank you, StuckPixel. Okay, and what they are doing is basically clean up session list. All true. Okay, server session. Session is null pointer. And actually, I don't think I have. Do I even have a declaration for kserver session? I probably don't. And if I don't, that might make this complicated. Yeah, okay, so I declare it, but it doesn't really exist yet. So that could be a problem. I probably need the classes to exist in order for this object to compile. That's... Of course. Okay, I guess I'm gonna need to add like ksession and kserver session, which kinda sucks, since this shouldn't require much in that way. But I guess I'll just write it and then I will do that, because I'll do that later. And then they're gonna get the first session in the list. Be kscoped. I think it's kscope scheduler lock, but I also haven't done this in a while. Kern kscheduler lock. That's the like abstract spin lock for that. It's actually going to be in kscheduler. It is kscope scheduler lock. Yep. Okay. We lock the scheduler, and then this session list. Yeah, okay. Wow, it's not empty. Okay, If it is not empty, then it will go here, and it will do this loop where it iteratively pops this thing, which makes sense. Although this is wrong. This is not actually writing the right thing. This is just This is just a linked list unlinking. Okay. It looks like it will do session is this session list front. We need an address of because that's a reference and we need a pointer. I guess this is actually getting the last session in the list. Weird. Like, that's a really weird thing for it to be doing because this kind of leaks sessions if there's more than one thing in the list. Although I don't think that's ever a condition that can actually be occurring. Still, it's odd to just be popping off sessions and then not closing them. So that's odd, but you know, I'm sure that it's fine. Okay. If session is not equal to null pointer, else break. If we wanted to, we could like put this up above and make it a wall session is not equal to null pointer. But that's, I don't think I prefer that. Session close. And then they do the same thing for the light session list. Clean up the light session list. K light server session. This light session list. I'm gonna do the thing I said earlier where, do we have an isLight? Okay. Let's add a getter for that. IsLight const return this parent isLight. Either we're light or we have no normal sessions. Or we're not light and we have no light sessions. And I don't know why Nintendo doesn't, you know, like do an if this is light to decide which list to clear. I guess they're just being safe, just in case the kernel somehow ends up in a weird invalid state. But we'll do what they do. There's no reason not to do what they do. I am going to note this to myself as a potential resource leak because they're not closing the sessions here if they're like in this list, which seems super weird to me, but maybe it's fine. Maybe I'm not remembering how sessions get added to a server ports list. And so maybe that is just a thing that is totally fine. Like maybe the port gets locked or something and only one session can ever be in the queue at a single time. But okay. Let's do destroy now, where we note to our parent that we're closed. And we perform Sari cleanup of our session lists. This cleanup sessions. And then we do the same thing where we close our reference to the parent. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, that was fun. But okay, is signaled. I'm pretty sure is signaled is gonna do the, you know, check if the lists are, yeah, okay. K server session. K server port, rather. If we're not light, it's gonna, got it, access different things in the V table. That's pain. Oh no, wait, it's an offset to this object. Okay. What is at 0x50? What is at 0x60? I bet it is the lists. Yeah, 50 is the last session, 60 is the last light session. And those are like the intrusive lists. Yeah, I have no idea why it's disconnecting and reconnecting to chat so much. It's bizarre. I have no idea. Yeah, is the list empty? It's just been a problem with Twitch recently. If this is light, turn this light session list on empty. Else return this session list on empty. Yeah, no, I like streaming this, and I hope that it is interesting content. Okay. What else do we need? We probably need the object name stuff, so let's do that too. We need object name : find, and we almost certainly need object name : new from name, because we create a new name. Yeah, new from name. Okay. Sorry that chat is being so weird. You know, we're doing our best regardless. Okay. Port. Let's copy that to Kern K. Damn it. Meant to copy in the source directory. Kern K object name. Okay. We're going to have these. Fairly straightforward. I can delete that. Both be object name. Paste that here. And we will do these three now. Yeah, let's start with new from name, since that's going to be, you know, like the most interesting thing to us. Okay. Allocate one, initialize it, copy the name. Am I gonna have to import stir and copy? I don't even know if we have stir and copy right now, which is pretty funny. Oh, I think it's fine to do a memory copy, to be honest. But Nintendo does stir and copy. I should do stir and copy if Nintendo is going to do stir and copy. Then it, you know, does kauto object create, which makes sense. Then it locks a global lock. Then it, you know, checks if the name matches anything. And if it does, then this is while it matches. Okay, that's an odd way to do that, but that's fine. Yeah, it inserts it into the list. Okay. Sure. That should be totally fine. I guess. That's weird. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started on this. Case lab allocated. Let me go to the slab helpers header. Yes. Okay. It'll be allocate. That'll allocate one. Okay. Okay. Object name. Create new object name. Name is allocate unless name is not a little pointer. PC result out of resource, which is the standard pattern for allocated objects. Well, I'm glad if listening to this is making you work harder. That is, you know, always the ideal. And then this is going to be like an initialize, probably, which is also fine. Okay, so this is going to be initialize the new name, initialize name. Let's make the initialize function. You know, we can actually probably get away with it being private. Always inline is a macro that I have, Hoenn. It uses the GCC attribute. See, atmosphere libs, lib vapors, defines.hpp for what it is. Is there anything else we want to do here that's probably going to be a... Yeah, okay, that should probably be... Okay. Let's add the things that we'll want here. We are definitely going to want void initialize, okay, auto objects, star name. We're going to want Google matches name, star name, and we are going to want okay, auto object get object const turn this object. I will put these two down below here, and we will copy them into implement. Okay. And this looks like it uses stir and comp. I don't think we have stir and comp. I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to like implement stir and comp, which is super silly. Because I don't think we have a stir and comp implementation right now. Fuck, I don't want to implement stir and comp if I have to. But that should be fine. Okay, this is clearly just return std stir and comp. This name, size of this name is 0. And similarly, this is going to be this up here, where it, you know, sets the name, it sets the object, and then it's stirring copies. Okay. This must be set number variables, open a reference to the object, behold. This object, open, is going to be this object is object, see, stir and copy, this name, size of this name, and then this name, size of this name minus 1 is 0, or a null terminator, rather. Okay, so that takes care of that. And then it looks like there's a object name list lock and an actual list. So let's expose this list type. Public. And then we will do an anonymous namespace. Space. K light lock. G object list lock. And K object name list. G object list. This is to do C plus 20 constant. Okay. So now we've got that. And then what we want to do is we want to lock this global lock, and then we want to iterate over the list, finding the thing. And actually, let's check find, because I bet it does exactly the same thing. It locks the list, and then it does this same thing. Okay, double check. It's because Nintendo has that function always inlined, basically, is why I use it. Hoenn. Okay, yeah, no, this looks like the same thing. Stirring comp, and then, you know, we open a reference to it, which makes sense. Okay. This is interesting. Man, are we gonna find a kernel bug on stream? That'd be really unfortunate. I just found a kernel bug on stream. Or do you want me? It's like an undefined reference. Okay. Guess we just had a kernel bug on stream. That's really unfortunate. Well, Okay. So let me double check that this is in fact a bug. Because I don't want to go, oh man, I just found a kernel bug on stream and it's not an actual bug. Okay. Is it? No, it's not. It has a double close here. Okay, not a kernel bug. Sorry if anyone's lagging. I think Twitch says my bitrate has been pretty consistent. Chat might be lagging because chat is super broken. Also, okay, it does close both of these. There are 2 decrements and not 1. Okay, that should be fine. Yeah, so my concern is that if this find is opening a reference to the object, then in the case where like they find it, I saw this increment and didn't realize there were 2 decrements down here, and if there was only 1 decrement, then it would have leaked the reference. But okay, there's no bug. I'm confident in that at least. Confident in that. Okay, so let's add this shared functionality that we have in find here. Yeah, maybe next time. Static k scope auto object k auto object find impl. And this will be pretty easy to do. We have find down here. And we see that find is just going to call find impl, but with the list locked. How many kernel bugs are you aware of? A lot, but none of them are security bugs. I'm aware of like more than 10 kernel bugs, but none of them have any security relevance. Like if I go to the EL0 or EL1 synchronous exception handler, did I not name it? God, what a pain that is. Sync SPX exception. Alright, so this is EL1 synchronous exception handler. Here's one. You can see that if an exception happens in EL1, they back up x0 into the virtual timer compare value, which, just to be clear, super gross, super fucking gross to use this register as a scratch register. I know the kernel doesn't use it, but it has a clear meaning. It's gross. And then they check ESR-EO1. Is this a certain kind of exception? If it is, they jump to this. This is like is it an invalid TLB kind of deal? And actually, I have this implemented. So let's go to source, arc, ARM64, kern, CPU ASM. Is it going to be kern exception handlers? Arc. Oh no, wait. It'll be in the kernel itself instead of in the mesosphere to prevent linker bullshit. Okay, it'll be in mesosphere. Cancel. Kernel, source, arc, ARM64, init. Now it's in exception vectors. Okay, actually it'll be in kern exception handlers ASM. Okay. EL1 synchronous. And this is language is assembly. Yeah, so is it an instruction abort? Is it a data abort? If it is, we jump down here. And here, check if there's a TLB conflict as the abort. Nope, there's a Nintendo bug in this code that we correct. We will verify this. They then AND x0 with 3f and compare it to 0x30. You can observe that if they just compared it with this value, then it will never have the value 0x30. What they're intending to do is to check the DFSC and IFSC bits of ESR-EO1, but they shifted ESR earlier, and so the check is invalid, and it always fails, and they can't actually recover from this kind of recoverable error because of it. And that's a kernel bug. And if you look at the same thing in the EL0 synchronous exception handler, you see that they use x16 and x17 as scratch. And then here they do they shift the value into x17, and then they branch. Oh wait, that's SVC handler. I want fuck. What's the value? We were just there. 21 and 25. Okay. Where is it? They have some equivalent here. Oh yeah, it's here. They and it with 3F, and they compare it to 30. And the reason that this happens is because some Nintendo engineer copy-pasted this code and then replaced x16 and x17, both instances, with 0, without realizing that that changed the meaning of the variables. No, not really. I can't think of any way to trigger this, and also it doesn't have any security implications. It just means that they don't recover from certain kinds of errors that they can recover from. But yeah, no, because they like copy-pasted it and changed both of these to x0, this check becomes invalid, because here it's safe to do because x16 doesn't change, but here it is not safe to do because x0 does change. Yeah, so I know about a lot of kernel bugs. It's just none of them have any security relevance whatsoever. If you're curious, just search the codebase for note, and everything that I know about will be noted with, like, a note. That is probably your best bet for finding kernel bugs. K-scoped, lock, G, object list lock. Sure we have exclusive access to global list. And then we want to return find impl name. Yeah, no, it's pretty straightforward. Here, this is like we want to iterate over the list. And if it matches, basically, if it matches the name, then we increment a reference to it. This is just part of the constructor for create scoped auto object. Okay, so here is my super dumb way of doing this. Am I fixing the bugs? I'm fixing some bugs. Like, I have the bugs fixed for that assembly thing in my implementation. Yes. Try to find a matching object in the global list. For const auto name G object list. If name matches name. Wait. Compare name matches. Then we want to return name.get object. Cool, that should work. Now let's go back to new from name. Okay, iterates over the list in exactly the same way. And if it finds it, then obviously it opens a reference because this is just an inline find impl. And then if the previous object is here, then it's if the previous object exists, then it closes the previous object's reference count, and it closes the new object's reference count, and then it returns result invalid state, and it frees the name to the slab heap, which is interesting. Okay, that's easy. Got it. Check if some existing name. Okay, auto object. Existing object. Then we want to lock the list and then do a find impl. In fact, this should be a k scoped auto object. Although actually, is a reference persisted to this if it doesn't exist? Although, wait, no. If it doesn't exist, it's fine because it doesn't exist. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, auto object, existing object. Yeah. You know, there's really no way to do this that isn't gross. I guess. What constructors do I have to find for k-scoped auto object? I don't support move constructors, which is kind of gross. Okay. Do I have like a release? I think I'm gonna need to do manual memory management for this. And so what we will do is we will add a release if I don't have one. Oh, I totally do have a move. Okay. There we go. That'll work. Never mind. I was just looking at the wrong thing. We are totally good. This will be fine. Okay. So we want to lock the list and then find dimple. And yeah. Existing object equals find dimple name. And what happens if it doesn't exist? If it doesn't exist, then it gets inserted, which makes sense. If existing object dot is null, then we insert it into the list, and then do we return immediately? Yeah, we do. Okay, and this is happening before it's unlocked, which is how I know it's in here. G object list dot insert. Is it a front or a back? It's a back. Okay. Cool, I'm really glad that you're enjoying it. Okay. If the object doesn't exist, we succeed. I could do a return result success right here. Which, you know, is nice. But that's kind of nice too. Let's do it that way. That's nicer. Okay. And we'll close this. We will not close it in the same order because we're using a scoped auto object. How did you learn how a kernel works? Reverse engineering and a lot of time. Like, a lot of time. I invest, like, several hours into this every day, Fiddlemaker, and I have just learned by doing. But I reverse engineered the 3DS kernel way back when, and the Wii U's iOS U kernel before that. And this is the third Nintendo kernel that I have experience with. Okay. Insert existing object is not null. And actually, super big brain time. Super big brain time. Super big brain time. We know necessarily that it is not null because it got here. And so we don't even need a reference to it because we'll just close the reference when we hit the end of scope. And that we're kind of less accurate because we are closing the reference to this while this lock is held, but that has no impact on correctness. And so I'm going to do this because that's cleaner, and I way prefer how this looks. And we're going to end up returning, what's the error code for this? Invalid state? Yeah. The result invalid state. Okay, so this is going to close the object, and it is going to do kObjectName free name. Okay. There we go. I think that is actually correct. Yeah, because it'll close the object here, and then it will free the name to the slab heap, and then it will return invalid state. Excellent. I think we have implemented new from name. That was fun. Okay, and then we want to do delete too. And okay, the same thing. The first thing it does is it acquires the lock. Does it let go of the lock? It does. Okay. So let's go ahead. First thing that we want to do is we want to get exclusive access to the global list. And then what does it do? It is going to iterate the list, looking again for something that is the object, that matches the object, and also has the same object. Okay, sure. If it is not contained in the list, then it will return a v12. What is v12 here? It's probably set up near the top. Result SVC not found. So that is our error case. We are going to have for auto. This will also be compare name again. For auto name in G object list. And then if we don't find it anywhere, we will return SVC result not found. Matching entry list and delete it. Find the object in the list. And so this is going to check if it matches the name and if the object matches. So if name data matches name, your name, and object is equal to name dot get object. Okay, then this is the case where we find it. And in that case, which is here, we close a reference to the object. We erase it from the list. We do a linked list unlinked, and then we free it, and then we return result success. Okay. Match. Clean up its resources. Object close. G object list dot erase. G object list dot iterator to name. K object name free the address of name. I guess to be really safe, K object name pointer is address of name. Pretty sure that the pointer is the iterator, but I'm gonna keep that, and then we're gonna free the name pointer. Pretty sure this is completely unnecessary. Pretty sure, it's unnecessary. It's fine. Okay, pretty sure that is object name delete, and I'm pretty sure we've just implemented the stuff that we need for object name. Great. Now let's see how many compile time errors there are now. I guarantee you there will be a lot, guys. I never get this right on the first try, so there'll be a lot. Get parent, incomplete type is port. Fuck, okay, yeah. Is light const. Google K server port is light const return this parent is light. I'm gonna have to do that for client port too. because I forward declare the parent. What a pain. Big money, no whammies. Okay, nope. There are in fact whammies. Okay, so let's see what they are. Our first whammy is incomplete type kserver session. Okay, this is what I was saying, where I'm gonna have to implement kserver session, which doesn't really exist yet. I'll have to do that. Yeah, okay, can't do the intrusive list stuff because it doesn't exist. Yep, that's fair. Intrusive list stuff. Okay, object name shadows a parameter. Great, okay. I need to pick a different name for that then. Name. This will be a new name because it's a new name. Great. That probably also fixes that bug. Okay, is the only error I made that and the fact that I didn't make these classes exist? If so, that's a pretty small amount of whammies. And I am very happy to accept that. That is a remarkably small number of whammies for me writing that much code. Like that is a huge win by any metric. I never get that much code right in one try. But okay. I don't want to do the declaration of light session and session. I guess I will. It's not going to be that bad. I mean, it's going to be a pain. It's only going to be a pain if I need to manifest any of them, in which case I would need to like do all the vtable functions, and that will be a pain. Like that very much could be a huge pain. But I think maybe that's less of a problem. I'm not like immediately sure how bad this is going to be to do. Like it could just be that I basically copy paste the port stuff and that's it, we're done. But it could be that it's actually a really involved piece of work. And I'm not going to say that it's going to be one or the other because I know better than to claim that I know what I'm doing at this point, because I never know what I'm doing. But okay, we should probably actually do this. Okay, light session. Is this also a placeholder? Yeah, it's a placeholder in the same way that it is here. So let's... The port, this is... You're going to see exactly what I mean when I say that this is, like, the same fucking thing 3 times. Because it is the same fucking thing 3 times. Local types. K session. Here's your K session. It is a server session, a client session, a state, a port, a name, an owner, and an initialized. Does that remind us of anything? It sure does remind me of something. This like embedding the server client thing in the structure is this pattern that they do repeatedly, which is just such a pain. It's also the same class. Ugh. Okay, we will persevere. It will not be that bad. It just won't be that bad. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get port here, and then we're gonna go to K session. And we are going to include kern K server session and K client session. Okay, we can now safely assume that ports exist. I don't want to have to declare the kport class before the session because kport needs to know about sessions. So let's forward declare K client port, since that's the member that it has, is this client port. Yeah, okay. It's like exactly the same thing as kport here. So let's copy pasta this. This be a K server session instead of a K server port. K client session. It'll be, you know, K client port. Looks like it also needs K process. This should be a state and not a bool because it is. Oh no, wait. This is a. Oh, right. We'll initialize. Unit pointer name. K process. Process. Sorry that there's so much delay. There's usually less delay. I will say there's something about my internet connection that is, you know, making the delay worse this time than usual. Okay. Then we're gonna need to do exactly the same thing where we do, you know, a constructor and a destructor. So let's go ahead and copy pasta this. Pretty sure the destructor is empty as usual for this. It has to be, I think, because of the way that their like embedded objects work. K session, server client, state is invalid. Port, name, process, initialized. And this is enough things that I will do the thing that I do syntactically, where I put this on its own line. Oh wow, that is awful latency. I'm deeply sorry. It's weird because my bitrate has been consistent at like 2 megabytes a second this whole time. So I have no idea why the latency is so bad. Okay. And then do we need anything else? No, because we only need the class definitions to exist right now. So we are going to skip doing literally any more work for K-Session right now. Great. Let's copy paste K-client port. Kern K-client session. And you know we're going to need to forward declare K-Session. We're going to do K-client session. And I should actually check what K-Session has. Is it just a parent? Is it literally just a parent? That's okay. That's dumb. That's like really dumb. Okay, fine. Sure. Good morning, Ave. Great. Also, I don't know if it is actually a synchronization object. What do I have it as? K auto object with list allocator adapter. Okay. In fact, it is not a synchronization object. I forget what I called that. Go here. I have K auto object with list. I think it's K auto object with slab allocator and list. Pretty sure is what that is what I called that. It is K auto object with slab heap and container. Got it. Okay. Different names in ID database versus this, but it's K auto object with slab heap and container, which is fine. Okay, let me double check how I use that. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Glad I did that the way I expected. A client session, K auto object with list. Okay. And this will be, I think it's K auto object with list that goes here. probably. Let me double check. I don't know why I didn't keep the grep up in the first time. Grep R. Okay, auto object with list. What is something that inherits from it? K-transfer memory. How do I do it there? Although K-transfer memory is probably a placeholder, so I'm not sure that's the best thing to check against. Still, I probably remembered what I was doing when I wrote this. K-auto object. Okay. And then this doesn't matter, and it doesn't have these. More of K-client. Session. We're doing sessions this time. Let's take current K-client session and turn that into K-server session. And what is my class for K-server session? It is, okay, it's got an intrusive list. Ooh, that's an actual intrusive list. Is it? No, that's just me using shifted pointers to represent multiple bases. Okay, totally fine. Do I have something similar here for one of these? Port, no I don't. Okay, either way, it's gonna inherit from K synchronization object and not K, util intrusive lists base node of K server session. So that'll be totally fine for us to do, is just have both of those. And then it's got a parent, and then it's got this list of session request objects. And do I have the session request object at the moment? I do. Great. Okay. Great. And it even knows that it has a base node. I'm so thoughtful when I say future me work. Thank you, past me, for making my life easier by having already done this. It's very much appreciated. Okay. So inside K server session, we're gonna want kern K session request, and it has a lock, so we're gonna need K-light lock. Kern K-light lock HTTP. Okay, and this is going to be K server session. It's going to inherit from public K synchronization object, and it's going to inherit from util intrusive list base node K server session, and that is also going to be a public inheritance. So that takes care of that. It's going to have a parent member. We want a list type, so let's add that using a request list is util intrusive list base traits K session request list type. Got a request list. Hello, Jack Sandbox. Sandbox, I guess, not Sandbox. I am re-implementing the Nintendo Switch's kernel, and I'm writing it in C++. I am not making a kernel and flashing it onto a Switch. I am taking Nintendo's kernel, which I reverse engineered, and re-implementing it as open source C++. I develop Atmosphere, which is the custom firmware for the Nintendo Switch, and this is me streaming my development of stuff for it. Okay, that should be all that we need. I do not own a dev kit. I have not signed the NDA for the Switch. You would be correct on both of those points. Thank you. It's a huge labor of love. I'd spend tons and tons of time on this. Tons and tons of time on this. A lot of time on this. I don't know if initialize does other things, so we're going to note that, and we're not going to implement it for now. It doesn't matter. More of K server session. Okay. It is a lot easier with the dev kit. I disagree. We have a boot ROM exploit that allows us to take full control of the hardware while the boot ROM is executing. And I do not think that a dev kit would do very much to be useful for me, to be honest. I have UART debug output. Like, I can run my kernel on real hardware and get UART output, serial output, for what it's doing. And I can't imagine that a dev kit meaningfully saves me any effort, especially for developing a kernel. Also, Atmosphere has all kinds of stuff in it for running homebrew code, and so the dev kit does not matter. I fully replicate Nintendo's crash reporting mechanisms, except I log stuff via human-readable plain text to the SD card automatically on crash. And I produce more outputs and more useful output than Nintendo does. So I actually think that developing an application on Atmosphere on a retail console is probably literally easier than developing on a dev kit at this point. Like, honestly, I think that it is probably easier to develop on Atmosphere on a retail device than on a dev kit. And I'm very proud of the work that I've done into Atmosphere to get it to that point. Very, very proud. Okay, so if we have done this correctly, and we might have, then we will expect that this server session stuff will work, but the light session stuff will still tell you, no, go fuck yourself, Michael. You didn't implement light server session. That's a whammy. Great. Okay. What did I miss? What did I miss? Okay, client session doesn't name a type. Okay, that was dumb. That should be a server session. That should be a synchronization object. Cannot field. Okay, server session to be abstract type. Okay, it needs to implement is signaled. That's fine. Ugh, am I gonna have to implement that? That sucks. I really don't want to do that right now. Great. Needs post destroy. Great. Pretty sure that this isn't going to do anything in its post destroy. I think I had something else that I needed a post destroy here too. Was it port that needed post destroy? Yep. Because it has a container, right? And everything with a container needs a post destroy. But I don't think it does anything. Okay, I'm gonna do one so that we, you know, don't have the super big errors. Where did I hit make? Okay, it also needs to be a member of case session. And I'm also gonna be pretty sure that it does literally nothing. Although maybe actually, no, the client session can't do anything because the client session is only going to update. The client session can't have a post destroy because the client session is embedded in the normal session. But the real one probably actually can have a post destroy. And I should check that instead of just assuming. Okay, session. Destroy. And this will be if it's initialized. Okay, yeah, this will probably be its post destroy, is this, where it like releases a limit from the session count. BRB pwning sessions. Listen, if you want to tell me that you can pwn me inside a virtual machine that doesn't have access to anything meaningful because I didn't update Windows, that's impressive. I would be very impressed if you could do that. Get post destroy argument. Okay. So the post destroy argument I think is going to be is initialized. That's a virtual call. Get after finalize arguments to be 2. Okay. What offset is that? 48? Fine. Where is the case session virtual table? 48 plus that is 68. K session, which returns the owner process. Okay, that makes total sense. Makes sense to me. Okay. I forget what the definition of that is, though. That's going to be in a auto object with slab heap and container, but I'll need to look it up. Slab helpers. Which will destroy. Oh no, I guess it's an auto object with list. It's been a while. Where should I implement this? Virtual UN. Was it in slab helpers and I'm just blind? Answer: it is in slab helpers and I am blind. That's awesome. I love that I am so blind. Okay. So let's copy paste these because these are straightforward, I think, for K-session, and we'll need them. Because initialize is clearly just return this initialized, and get post tray argument is going to be return cast uint pointer t this process. Okay, and that should be that. Mark this override and mark that override. And actually, let me also copy in this to session. Yep. That'll probably make it happier. There might still be link errors. We'll see. Hi, new viewer. Out of curiosity, how do you test a custom kernel? So, I have this setup where I have... I do some debugging inside an emulator, but the emulator doesn't get much further than, starting the initial processes. And so what I'm doing is I have a custom Joy-Con that's running a custom Joy-Con firmware, and the custom Joy-Con firmware takes UART output from my hardware and sends it over Bluetooth to my PC. And my PC receives that as like a COM port in Windows, and then I have a TIO running in Windows Subsystem for Linux on the relevant COM port, and when I run my kernel on hardware, I get my debug output. So I run it on hardware. Light server session. Yes, it does appear that we got it to stop bitching about normal sessions. So, what do we do at this point? Well, that's an easy answer. We do exactly the same thing for light session, which is going to be, an enormous pain, but it's what it is. It's Nintendo's fault for making a bunch of duplicate classes. Oh wait, light session probably already exists. It should already exist. Okay. We're going to do the, copy-paste game again, because this is an identical class, as I recall. In fact, let's verify that it is an identical class. K light. Let's do session, because that'll get us both. K session, size 110. Server client state port name owner initialized. K light session, size 108. Server client state port name owner initialized. It's the same object, except the light server and client objects are like slightly smaller. It's the same fucking object, but that's fine. Everything's fine. I'm not that mad about it. I'm kind of mad about it. Genos3 says, hi, you can use the black themes in Notepad++ if you want. I do not want. Thank you, though. I appreciate the heads up. Well, that's light session. Am I getting bottlenecked by UART transmission rates? So keep in mind, the kernel doesn't get that far yet, and so we're not really bottlenecked. It's just, yeah, I'm just debugging with text right now. And, like, it's totally fast enough for what I'm doing, and I will deal with the bottleneck of how much UART output I can get once the kernel is further, probably. But I am pretty good at debugging, and so I think that I'll be able to manage it, and I don't think it will be like a huge ordeal to manage regardless. But okay. Let's see. What else do we need? Let's check the same post-finalize stuff. Okay, light session. We use GCC. Initialize. Create light session. Light session virtual table. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Post destroy will be at 48, which will be right here. I like GCC. And then this, right here, yeah, okay. That's fine. Let's copy paste from session. So that's really what I was doing. Not sure what you mean by official there. Because, like, we're implementing the same thing that the official kernel does. But you know, we're obviously implementing our own code. It should be obvious if you're watching the stream since I'm typing this live. I like GCC. I like GCC a lot. I find that it produces better output, and the libraries that I develop, I contribute a lot to libnx. All use GCC. Libc asks, how do you flash the firmware of the Joy-Con? I did it over Bluetooth from PC. Okay, then we also need to do the same thing here, where this takes light server session, light client session. No, this is definitely not endorsed by Nintendo. I am not affiliated with Nintendo in any way. This is probably the opposite of endorsed by Nintendo, actually. This is like as far from as endorsed by Nintendo as you can possibly get. This is my custom implementation of their like firmware API. Is light session the same? Light client session is, yep, it is exactly the same thing. Okay, so here's where we do the big brain thing, where we do K light client session. Done. Yeah. Now, is this endorsed by Nintendo is a really funny question. Yeah, we are the most not endorsed by Nintendo as I think you can possibly get. It's funny though. It's very funny. Okay. So that's light client session, and then we need to do light server session, which is, it looks like basically the same thing, except it uses a K thread as the request instead of like its own custom request queue object. Okay. So let's go ahead and copy pasta. Kern K server session. server session. Man, do I not have a break there either? Fixed end of message. AMS is the official abbreviation that I give for Atmosphere, and Atmosphere is the project that this is for. Okay, this is going to be, we're going to want K-Light session declared instead. Oh, and that probably also needs to be a thing here. Yep. Glad I caught that now. And this is going to be K-Light server session. And it's again the same thing where it's like, actually, K-Light server session. I think I remember this. Okay, it's like a client is with an allocation adapter instead of being a synchronization object. But it also has the base node, which, you know, seems like a waste since it's already in a list. But, you know, as it goes. I'm fine with this being super long. That's fine. Let's be K auto object. Okay. And then I think we need kthread and kthread queue. I don't think we can avoid that here. And it doesn't have a lock. So we want kern kthread and kthread queue. Kern kthread and kern kthread queue. We've got a kthread queue request queue. And I don't remember what the next one was. Server queue. You've got current request and server thread. This will serve as an open source reference implementation of the kernel, Genos. I talked about this a lot in the last stream where I was doing this. But a lot of this, as a labor of love, is just because I love Nintendo's operating system design, and I want people who are interested in understanding how it works to be able to see how it works. Yes. Also, like, as a hacker, having an open source copy of the kernel is just awesome. Like, it is super good for anyone who wants to understand how the kernel works, which I think is probably, like, a non-trivial amount of people. Okay. Let's, you know, in theory, we might be done. I'm sure that I made copy-paste errors, though. No, Ling Gamer. So, the Linux kernel, yeah, I messed up the traits. That doesn't surprise me. Candidates. Deleted. Only constructors. Okay. Copy-paste errors. And it doesn't have is signaled because it is not a case synchronization object. And it doesn't have that request list. Okay. I explained this a lot on a previous stream. Totally watch the previous stream if you want to know more about. Do these both need? These definitely both need post destroys. Watch the previous stream if you're interested in why microkernels are great. But the Linux kernel is a monolithic kernel, which means it puts like everything inside of the kernel. But this is a microkernel. As little code is present in the kernel as possible, only the things that really need to be, which is great for security, and everything is modular, and all of what you might think of as drivers in a normal system run in user mode on the switch. Cool, it's building. Let's speed it up a little bit. Will it build? We might just have linker errors if I did this right. Come on, just linker errors. Big money, no whammies. Big money, no whammies. Why can't we rename monolithic / micro to thick and small? It's funny. You know, what I really need to do is I just need to make like an FAQ that explains all of this stuff, because I know it's confusing. Okay, link your errors. Fuck, it is stir and copy and stir and comp. Of course it's those two. I knew I would have to implement them, and I really didn't want to implement them. Okay. Sphere, source, the libc generic. I think I copy pasted these from newlib. Let's go. GitHub dev kit pro newlib. Stir and copy. Okay. Well, at the risk of having this just not work at all, I think I'm going to try the obvious thing to do, which is to copy paste this. Do we have a detect null and unaligned already? Unaligned we do have. We don't have detect null, so let's copy paste that in. That can go right here. And too small. We already have. We do have too small. Yep. But too small gets redefined as less than size of long for here. I probably need to undefine it, and then yeah, okay. The way this is doing it is we are just copy pasting the correct things in the right places. Great. Okay. Yeah, no, this is for sure copy pasting with SvcM. Hope you guys enjoy watching copy paste with SvcM. Copy paste this. So we've got the includes. Then we, you know, copy paste all this. Yep. Then we copy paste this. How do we know that this parallels the architecture of the actual switch kernel? The answer is that I am using a reverse engineered copy of the switch's kernel, Lingamer. Like I have tons of the kernel's code labeled. And so the answer to how does it, that should answer itself. Okay, theoretically we have stir and copy now. Let's see, does that build? Bet that doesn't build. Too small, redefined. Love it. Great. And then it's just gonna complain about stir and comp. It's in C++, not in assembly. Yes. Will the old trick of also, when was the last time this was updated? History. There's this 908.716 E9. Did I just copy an older version of it? Fuck. Where was this? Huh. Okay, it's actually probably recent-ish. Yeah, it's not bad. You know, we make do. I'm just gonna assume that what I just copied is fine. It probably hasn't been changed in a while. I don't really want to go to commits though. I just want to see it on master. Thank you. Do they have a different branch for DevKit ARM64? They do. Okay, yes, I will go copy, stir and copy from there then, again. In that case, although it's probably the same thing. This looks like it's the same thing. Or no, I wanted raw. Pretty sure this is going to be the same thing. Yep, it's fine. Totally fine. Yeah, let's go ahead and copy and stir and copy. Or stir and comp, rather. And will this work? It'll probably complain about redefinitions. Okay, did it just not detect that I edited this? That sucks. Because it's just gonna linker error now, because I don't think it detected that I edited this. Let's try that one more time, and if that doesn't work, I'll just delete the object file. Because I don't want to do a full make clean, that's a lot of waiting. Sphere, release, kernel libc generic, delete, delete. Okay, maybe now it'll link. I believe. Yeah, that is definitely the strategy when in doubt. Also, it looks like I've been doing this for about 3 hours-ish, so I will probably test this to verify that ManageNamedPort works on hardware, or at least that we get to a system call past it, and then call it a night. We did way more port stuff than I was expecting, but I hope it's been fun to watch. Okay, cool. That is built, and let's make sure that it's actually copied. Okay, it's copied onto my device, and now let's run it. Okay, it's running on my device. It takes a second for Atmosphere to get to the point where it's outputting stuff. Come on, not spotty Bluetooth. Spotty Bluetooth. Okay. This happens sometimes. I'll just restart it. It's probably because it hasn't been connecting much for a while. Do I have access to the Switch Graphics API? The kernel does not do anything graphically. It is a microkernel. Graphics are not required to be in the kernel, so they are not in the kernel. Atmosphere and like Homebrew that's running via Libc can access the graphics API, but the kernel has nothing to do with graphics. Come on, big money, no whammies. Great. Okay, it's calling SvcCreatePort. That makes sense. Yeah, that's not my job, though. Someone else is doing that. I would just say Finks, I believe. Awesome. Okay. It looks like, so the reason that it calls create_port next, and the fact that we're getting there means that it is succeeding. If we go to Atmosphere Stratosphere, where I've implemented the Service Manager, source, Service Manager main, we can see that here it manages name port and it creates SM. And then we manually register service for self, SMM, which is like the management thing. Register service for self. Register service info. This is basically just create a port and then, you know, set the stuff. So we are getting here, and we can see that ManageNamedPort causes an abort unless it succeeds. And so we are succeeding. Awesome. Okay, I will answer a few more questions, but then I think I'm basically going to call it a night. It's been 3 hours. We implemented ManageNamedPort. I think it has been a good stream. Anyone have any last minute questions about the stuff that we just did tonight? Yeah, creating named port SM with max sessions equals 64. ManageNamedPort SM 64. Awesome. Well, you can hit me with questions anyway. What is your day job? I do not do software stuff at all. My day job is not related to this. But I'm glad that it's been engaging for you. That is my hope, since I love doing this stuff as my hobby. If this is engaging to you as an embedded engineer, that is basically my ideal. Who entrusted you with this? I don't understand what the question means. I self-assigned this as my hobby because I love this. This is what I like doing. I don't understand the question, entrusted you with this, because there isn't a third party relevant to the decision-making process. Artemis's beard. Good joke. Good joke. Yeah. Okay. I will stream again sometime this weekend, I think. Am I planning to use this project? I use Atmosphere every day, Genos. It is my custom firmware for the Switch, and anyone who is running my custom firmware, which is people who hack their Switches, are using my code. So yes, this project is in use. If you're interested in it, it is on GitHub, Atmosphere NX, Atmosphere. Here we are. You can totally feel free to check it out. Okay, well, this has been fun. I will be back streaming more kernel development again soon. And hopefully Pluto will show up to one of these streams in the future. Okay. Good night, everyone.